Let me settle in. Get comfortable here.
It is the Halloween season, so take of this what you will.
Okay.
Getting set up to start our recording. Turning the lights on in the space that I record in, which I guess I can come clean and say that this half of it is a living room space within my bedroom, and then there's the rest of it. So turning lights on, off, and all that other stuff. I noticed something on the ceiling. I'm like, what is that? It looks like some spots on the ceiling. So I'm like walking around looking, I can't see it. So there's like just a certain angle that you need to be standing at. And I'm like, that is what I think it is. So call my wife up just a few minutes before we started. It was like, you got to come up here.
Did you say, honey, I need you to kill the spider for me?
No. I was like, I was like, all right, stand here. It's like, do you see those like spots on the ceiling? She's like, I haven't seen them before. What are they? And I'm like, okay, take a couple of steps closer and it'll come into focus of what exactly it is. She goes, why are there footprints on our ceiling? Like, what? I don't know. I have never seen footprints on the ceiling. There are small footprints on our ceiling.
Like human foot, like shoes?
Bare feet? No. What? No, barefoot human footprints on my ceiling.
Nice.
There is footprints on the ceiling. So then
it is the Halloween season, as you said.
So my daughter who firmly believes, if my daughter who firmly believes that our house is haunted came up, she came up with the dog and she's like, I thought you were recording. And so I was like, all right, stand here. She's like, standing there. She's like, looking at the little spots. I was like, see the little spots? She's like, yeah. Walk up a little bit closer. She's like, why are there? And then she just like looks at both of us and she's like, Why? She didn't even have to ask. She didn't. She just said, told you.
She felt justified. Yeah. I've been trying to tell you guys. Wow.
Like, so is there somebody walking? Because those footsteps are over our bed. Is there some apparition hanging over our bed?
I like this. This is awesome.
I don't know. Like it's interesting. I, again, never noticed it. Kind of, I'm not freaked out, but I gave my analysis of what I think it is. And I think at least my wife bought it, but my daughter looked at me like,
So what was your thinking?
Although we haven't ever noticed it before. Again, I probably have never really, we have been here now for a little over a year. And we didn't really, and this is the first time that I've ever noticed it. So is it new? I don't think so. Could it possibly have been, the previous owners had a bed in the same location because the photographs that we saw, the bed was in the same location. Could somebody have been trying to do a handstand and putting their feet on the ceiling? Absolutely possible. And so that's my take on it. But because it's the Halloween season, I could also okay, let's entertain the ghostly apparition kind of feeling and. But
use your imagination. I like it.
It's like,
I like it.
This house has been around for well over 80 years, 82 years, and so because I still remember that math, and
that's right,
exactly. And so, could it have been like the previous owner? Sure. I'm not going to go too far into what my daughter feels like the previous owner might have been. And I'm also not going to go into the designs on the handrails outside of my window because if you saw the handrail design, everybody would know what my daughter feels like the ghostly apparition is. And since this was in 1941 in a interestingly supportive area of a certain movement in the world that was not favorable to the world, I think I've given enough of it away to like.
So cryptic.
She feels we have Nazi ghosts.
That's right. I remember that the handrail photo. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if I want to share it in the show notes or anything, but it's handrail.
I was about to draw it, and then I thought, nope.
Yeah, I was going to say, no, don't. Please don't. I don't want, no.
Well, there's a good opportunity to use this no.
Yes, no. But
it was funny because I'm thinking like I kind of almost drew it already when I drew that pinwheel. Yeah, that would have been the last episode. I got out of the house this week. Okay, so we're getting to the end of the year. I'm starting to get emails about continuing education. Right?
Are you now?
My license is up for renewal this year. It's an odd year. Yeah, it's how California does it. I don't know if it's like that everywhere, but it is where I am. And they raised the price. Did I tell you they raised the price on just the license renewal in California?
No, but that's nice.
It went, isn't it?
That's a fine.
Raise the price.
Exactly.
That's nice. Yeah, they didn't even ask me out to dinner. It went from 300 to 400. It's like
for your state license.
Yes. Well, and that's for 2 years, right? So, but still, that's a lot. Oh, no. That's a big jump.
This one.
That's a big jump.
2 years.
What?
My 2-year license.
Mm-hmm.
$76 and I think $100. So I can get my 2 licenses for less money than it takes.
Less than half.
You could throw in like another state or two for me and I could still, come out on top from all of this.
Right. It's crazy, right? It's like,
and it
didn't just go up like a nominal percentage. It went up a lot of percentages, right?
Yeah.
It was like, what? And seriously, like it's just to keep a box checked in a database, right? Like,
right.
As far as I'm concerned.
And they still, and none of that still like, there is no administrator that's like, reviewing your continuing education or anything like that. It's just,
it's all honor system.
We've earned from this guy who wants to maintain his license X amount of money. And if we deem that we need him to prove that he's done the continuing education, we'll audit him later.
We'll turn the screws. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been audited twice.
It's a captive audience. It's a captive audience, right? And what are you going to do? Like,
right.
This is like one of those states where, okay, there is an extra exam. This is not a trivial state, people. This is California. And you need to know who you're dealing with here. You don't let your California license go, I don't think.
Right.
I mean, no. I'm actually reconsidering it now. But if I wanted to... If I wanted to go back to California for any reason, well, I'd have to take the supplemental exam again. Like, no, thank you. Yeah, right. Exactly. So they know this. They know all this. Yeah.
It's just like, okay, what is the hardest state to get licensed in? California. So if they, like, as you said, if they want to keep their license, they're going to pay whatever we want. We have now held them hostage.
Right.
And there are so many people who are just like, I'm not going to, I'm not going to pay that. Like, but if you do, you have to retake. Oh, but I don't want to do that. So, okay, I'll pay you. It's literally, It's like they hold all of the cards. They are the ones who are demanding that fee from you and you are willing to pay it.
Well, so we talked about this before, that there was the NCARB thing, right? Where it's like, we're going to waive the back fees. It's just $250. And then it's like, a lot of people probably did that. I did because of reciprocity. And so then they send out an email a few months later that says, our renewals are going up, right? And then I get this letter from California that says, our renewals are going up. It's just everywhere. And groceries are 35% more. And gas and utilities and everything. everything is you're just feeling it everywhere.
And everybody wants you to come back to the office.
Right.
So
yeah, if you could spend more time in your car, more maintenance, more gas, spend more money to get to work.
Exactly.
Right? So that you can be more miserable at work.
Realizing that you can't afford to actually go to work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the reason I brought up this continuing education is because I actually went to my first. So I actually asked you. I said, "Hey, what did you have to do to switch your local AIA?" Right? Because it wasn't obvious. There's no. Anyway, I found it. It's on the AIA's website. You have to email them and let them know where you're switching from and to, and then it goes through some approval process, and then they say, okay. And then I start getting emails from AIA Oregon. So we just have one state, and then there's a few regions. We have this big state, AIA Oregon. Then there's a couple regions, and so the Southern Oregon region, I guess, doesn't have a lot of participation. I mean, obviously we're more rural than the northern Portland side of things.
Sticks.
I'm in the sticks, and so they sent out this thing that, hey, we're gonna have a lunch and learn. Okay, so when I was in an office, there was lunch and learns.
Oh yeah, all the time.
All the time, and actually, so the reason I decided that I was going to sign up for this was because, okay, number one, I'm wondering if it's worth even keeping my AIA for the following year, because it's a big expense, right? In addition to the California license and now the NCARB, whatever. So I want to meet the people around here. I want to, if I'm going to participate in the AIA, I'm going to get it from the local. Like, we go to the conference, right? The national conference, but this would be a place where I would have more interactions with people who are local. And okay, I want to meet the local architects. And so this email comes out. It's like, sign up for this lunch and learn. It's at a hotel. It's like, 3 miles away from me. No big deal. And I would love to meet architects in the area and just find out who's here. And then I get it. So I sign up immediately, and I get an email a couple of weeks later, and it's like, look, you guys, everybody said they want in-person events again, and nobody's signing up for this. And so I'm like, maybe this one event that I've signed up for is going to get canceled. I thought that was kind of hilarious. Anyway, it ended up happening. I went to the lunch. 9 people showed up. The guy who gave the presentation was from Premier Sips. His name was Kevin. He's a super cool guy. He said, I had to buy 15 lunches at the hotel. So they're giving away lunches at the end. And it's just a sign of the times, right? It's it's everybody's busy. I mean, when you're in an office, my wife asked me, she's like, why do people go? It's like, well, they go for the free lunch. That's why people go, right? There is the lunch and learn thing that's a thing, right? Everybody goes for the free lunch.
It's the lunch, not the learn.
Right. Yeah, exactly. How many people just grab the lunch and then duck out the back, right? They sign the paper, put their AIA number so that they get the credit, grab the lunch and walk out the door at the back of the room.
We got a good system going on where basically you have to sit through the whole thing, and then we've got a list of all of the numbers, and the guy checks off who's actually there, whether it's
do they go around the room at the end again and see who's still there at the end of the presentation?
He does a good job of policing people. He's like, there is no free lunch. If you want that free lunch, you're going to sit through this thing. Which is good.
Yeah.
But I think you're bearing the lead. What we would like to present to you is the new president of AIA Oregon Boondocks chapter, because he's only one of 9 people.
Right.
And they're just like, hey, you're new. Do you want to do something? Like, sure.
You want to join the AIA? You want to volunteer? You want to be part of this committee? You want to be part of that committee? Do you want to be on the board? Do you want to? Yeah.
Yeah.
That didn't happen.
You are.
I mean, that might be happening to you in Detroit, but that's not happening to me here, at least yet.
Well, thankfully, that didn't come into fruition where what you're talking about is some people were like, hey, you were interested in getting involved. We've got chapter leadership nominations coming up. And thankfully, there was enough people that actually are very active in AIA Detroit. And I was speaking to one of them not too long ago, and they're running for vice president. And I know the guy, he's got my vote, but he's very, very active. And it is really good because, I've gone to a couple of different seminar, like that my little Nerd Fest seminar for code, and I've been to a bunch of things. And so what is AIA Detroit seems very active, and there's a lot of participation. It's not that big of a chapter. I'm actually kind of either surprised, dismayed. I'm not quite sure what the appropriate word is, but for the people who are there, they actually do get a bit of activity going on. And, I went on a building tour, and the building tour and all of the tickets were sold out because went online to check to see if I could add my wife to come with me, and I couldn't. So they were sold out. So that's good. That's good. I mean, it wasn't the big, strong 9 people that you had, that your chapter was pleading with them to please come.
Yeah, they said before the pandemic, there was 25 to 30 people participating pretty regularly. Yeah. And so it's taken a lot of time to kind of build momentum back up. And there's more people interested. Of course, the day that you plan anything is a day that there's going to be a certain number of people just can't make it anyway, right? So obviously that's going to happen, but still they're having a hard time building momentum once again.
Do you know what your local chapter membership is?
No, I don't. I mean, he just said that that's how many people participate, but so it seems like the membership has to be bigger. I actually thought there were way less architects in this area, but there are a few firms, so it makes sense that there's everybody going to one of these is pretty much going to be guaranteed to be an architect because they're doing it for the CEs, right? So
right. So how many did you get?
And the lunch, an hour and a half, 1.5 CEs.
Really?
Yeah.
My Nerd Fest was 6.
Well, you also had to spend quite a bit more time there than I did. So
yeah, but
all day.
Quality
time, quality over time. Well, and quantity.
I was going to say mine was both quality, and I almost made that. It was just a quality over quantity. I was like, wait, no, I had quantity too. So, but
yep, yeah.
So what was that lunch and learn? It was about
SIPs. It was about SIPs. Have you ever used SIPs on a project?
No. I mean, I've seen residential projects using the SIPs products. Honestly, a lot of our projects are, it's all commercial. So we're doing steel frames. If we're doing anything insulated as part of the exterior cladding, it's going to be insulated metal panel rather than a SIP system or something like that. So I have always wanted to, because there's a lot of great advantages to a SIP system. Just it isn't the system for what I do.
I think that's changing. I obviously asked the question because it was kind of residentially focused for this presentation, but it's commercial as well. They're doing a lot of multifamily, which you could obviously still categorize as residential, but they're also doing a lot of commercial with it. They're not doing mid-rise and high-rise, but you can mix it with structural systems. It doesn't have to just be self-supporting. So
right. What's interesting though is, so I've seen a lot of people do wood frame commercial. I have never done wood frame. I've done wood frame residential, but I've never done wood frame commercial.
I've done wood frame schools, but not, and obviously a lot of steel frame as well, but never commercial. It's all.
I've renovated wood frame schools, but all of the additional structure and things like that, we actually went in to reinforce some of the roofs to meet the current codes, especially in the particular zones we were in. We reinforced the existing wood frame with steel. And so,
and is that because wood is it a moisture issue more so on the East Coast? On the West Coast, they still build a lot of stuff out of wood.
No, because there's, almost everything in smaller commercial and residential and even multifamily. I see plenty here that is going up in residential in wood frame. And then I've seen like on the East Coast, mid-Atlantic area where there's plenty of moisture issues and things like that, they still build out of wood. It's just, I never have. I mean, I never have to the extent of, maybe it's a CMU wall with wood trusses, things like that, but that's not like full wood framing. And so like I almost feel sometimes I feel behind. It's like like I get schooled on like what the proper terminology of wood framing is by watching This Old House. Instead of like, what did you learn in architecture? Go, well, I forgot about it because I haven't really used that. So it's just kind of interesting. Like path that I took is like I started off residential, and when I was doing residential in Florida, it was CMU block walls with wood frame, like wood trusses. Not even rafters. It was wood trusses, and so that kind of makes the detailing easy, honestly. But then when I got to like do actual wood framing, like wood frame projects, we then ventured into doing the few, I'd say, like maybe like 10 residential projects I've done in my career. Most of them were either CMU or systems built, prefabricated. And so I didn't even have to I just gave them the design, and
the wall layout,
and because of their system, they did the actual detailing.
It's all shops.
Yeah.
The interesting thing, and I don't want to rehash the whole presentation, that's for sure, but the idea of wood framing having not too many changes over the last 150 years is kind of something we should be more aware of. And it's interesting, this ecosystem that we operate within in architecture and construction, where innovation is really hard to get through everybody's. It's how they do things. We do it the way we've done it, right? We train people the way that we've always done it, and they continue. It just proliferates on and on and on. And I mean, you can actually find photographs of projects from 150 years ago under construction, and you look at it now, and you probably can't tell the difference, right? Of course, there have been lots of innovations in small ways, but like the general picture of it, they look almost the same. And we have a lot of problems with sourcing good lumber nowadays, right? It's like you don't have old growth straight wood. Everything, it's dry, it's straight, the grain is packed. It's like, nope. Now, like I know this because I've had a load of lumber delivered from Lowe's to do some remodeling, and it's like 30% of it has to go in another pile. Because it you can't use it. You've got to return it, or it just gets, or it's job waste.
Yep.
Like,
so I got to use this for blocking.
If you can even use it for that, because it's going to push your drywall out, right? So it's a problem, and it's just interesting as SIPS is not new. I'm not trying to say that it is. It's just it's different. And just so I guess we should say what SIPS is: structurally insulated panel system. And it's two pieces of OSB sandwiched on the outside of a layer of really dense foam on the inside, and it's all glued together. It's like a very strong structural grade panel in the shear wall sense, but also in the load bearing sense. And so it's like I said, it's not new. One of my professors from school built his house out of SIPs 20 years ago, at least. And they've been around for company, I think. Premier SIPs has been around for 70 years. So it's funny when you think about building products from an architect's point of view. It's like, we don't know what we don't know. And so if we're not used to something, if we don't know about something, how do we even know to look for it? But also you then have to get approval for it when you get your plans approved, because is the jurisdiction used to that? Like, are they going to throw up a red flag? And then you got to find a contractor who's willing to do something that they don't normally do. And you got to have an owner who totally sees the value and the benefit of it. And all of those things stack up, and it makes it very difficult for things to change in our industry. It's tricky, really tricky.
As you're talking, and I'm just thinking about like all of the different new housing constructions that I've seen, so rarely do they use SIPs. And hell, I mean, even like the ZIP system seems like people don't even want to invest in that. And so I feel like, you know, it's interesting. We have this conversation about all the different types of like building material out there. And it's just like, oh, well, that's more expensive than this system, or you're using that. And, you know, the first cost is so much higher.
But the operational cost is so much lower.
Exactly.
Right?
And that's that's the conversation that we don't seem to want to have is like, okay, fine. It is more expensive up front, but if you do the return on investment analysis and you start to see your operational, your maintenance and everything else, maybe it's not like a 5-year return, you know, it might be a 7-year return or something like that. But if you're planning on this being a school system or things like that, when you talk to them about, like, say, you know, a renovation or a new building, and you talk to, you know, we've always talked about like school systems like designed by maintenance. And if you really sit down and you talk about it, you're just like, but this product is so much superior to that product, and you won't have to worry about the same kind of maintenance as you do with this. And this doesn't last as long as that does. It doesn't require the same amount of maintenance as that does. And so you can actually spend money on other things. And, you know, I remember having a conversation about like alternatives to VCT. We love VCT, right? We love
That's
VCT.
In air quotes. Don't forget your air quotes.
Yeah, don't forget exactly. And, you know, we were talking about all of these different durable, sustainable, and long-lasting materials. And it's just like, but that's not what our attic stock is. That is not our standard. And so when one school, we finally broke them of the VCT habit. And
we broke that.
And so,
well, even existing stock, right? Attic stock becomes like what drives the material you have to use for the ceilings and the floors and the carpeting and right.
Don't get me started.
Stop.
Yeah. No. Well. Okay. So I got to tell you this, since we're on this subject. It's like
I got him started.
Yeah.
Here we go.
You got me wound up. So I'm touring. I'm doing an initial assessment of a high school that we're getting ready to do the schematic design on and start going through like these major renovations. Big, I think at the end of the day it was probably about a 500,000 square foot high school. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, I'm walking through and I'm looking at all of the ceilings. They're like, well, we're not really going to, you know, focus, you know, like we're doing all of these like strategic additions. We're going to renovate this, we're going to renovate that, but this area right here, all it is basically patch and paint. I was like, but we're going to replace the ceiling, right? And they're like, no, we'll just replace ceiling tiles as needed, but we will replace the lighting. Okay, but why aren't we replacing the ceiling? And they're like, well, you know, we've got all of this attic stock and all of this other stuff, and so I'm looking at it, and it's 2x4 acoustic, you know, lay-in ceiling, and it's bowing. And
of course it is.
And so, you know, I'm just
old,
like
some old stock that didn't have the new technology.
No. It's not even that. It's now it could be that. Yeah, yes, but so they turn off the air conditioning at set times in the year, and then basically keep it off during the entire summer. So during the entire summer, it's really, you know, gets damp in there, humid in there, and basically the humidity starts to bow these ceiling tiles. And then what do they do once they crank the ceiling back up? If the ceiling tile isn't stained, it's fine. If it's stained from the summer, they'll replace it. And this is kind of like they're cycling. You just like, you know, if you replace it with, you know, a better performing tile, that's one thing. But if you are so destined to continuously keep turning off the the AC, rather than doing, a cost analysis of like, what does it cost you to replace all of this material because of the damage that's caused by all of the moisture and humidity buildup within the schools, plural, during the summer? Wouldn't it be better to, one, you're doing a systemic renovation, so it's going to include all new higher performance mechanical systems, and you're replacing all of that stuff. So there is no real reason for you not to do that. But I think I've told this story, or I know I've told you this story about the real reason why they didn't want to change. And I hope that they have now. But even in that renovation, which was actually a really nice renovation, except for it had 2x4 ceiling tiles, which were not nice ceiling tile. I don't like I don't like the module. I mean, that's a designer preference thing. But
from a sustainability standpoint, what is worse? Is it worse to run your air conditioning over the summer, or is it worse to fill up a landfill with ceiling tiles?
Even if you raise the set point during the summer, lower the set point, in the winter time and stuff, so that you keep it's more about, in my opinion, it's more about dehumidification than anything else. Yeah. And hell, you could even run dehumidifiers rather than you could run the dehumidifications than the whole system. And they don't do that because they feel like the energy cost is greater, but they're not looking at the cost of all the replacement materials. Yeah. Their attic stock is going to run out. They're going to have to replace that. They're going to keep doing that. And if you've got labor, a 20-year-old
and
building,
people on top of ladders, and the safety and all of that stuff has to add up. I mean, and all you really have to do is look at the data, right? You could run some experiments, extrapolate the data out over a bigger time period, and have some answers pretty fast, right? But are people willing to do that? Do they actually want to be informed? Or do they just want to keep doing it the way that they've always done it?
So to follow up on that VCT conversation, so we convinced them to do an MCT, marmoleum, which was more of a natural material, more sustainable, and actually far more durable. So they decided that they were going to use that in this. It either didn't trickle down to the maintenance staff or whatever.
The decision, like the original decision that's the direction you were going. Somebody important didn't get wind of it. That's what you're saying?
Somebody important didn't get wind of it. So fast forward to the floor tile is in.
It's in.
They're getting ready to. They're doing all of their final maintenance and all this other stuff to open the school and get ready for the new school year. And I get a phone call that said, "We need you down at the school. We need you to explain what."
You need to go to the principal's office.
I was. Oh, no. Yeah. I was called on the carpet, and they were just like, "You need to explain to me, you convinced us that this was the right tile to go to. And you need to explain to me why it looks like that." And I'm like, "Well, did you follow the manufacturer's maintenance?
Why it looks like what?
We've been using did
it?
So it was streaking, the kind of like the sealer and all of this other stuff that they were using, that they use all the time on BCT. When they were running their buffers over, it was burning and it was staining and all of this other stuff. It was because they were treating this as VCT, not as the tile that we use. And there's a completely different eco-friendly system that you need to do for maintenance on those, to clean those.
It's different.
You really actually, it is a completely different system. And so since they have an attic stock of this type of cleaner and this type of sealer and everything else, they basically ruined all of this floor tile by doing it their old way.
Is that because they didn't realize that it was a new kind and they were honestly oblivious to that? Or was it that they were just...
It could have been. But here's the issue. The manufacturer of the tile had also sent all of the cleaning materials, it didn't need sealer. So there was no sealer for this, but they were sealing it. And in fact, it actually says that it voids the warranty if you do seal it. But And so they were sealing it. They were stripping it using the harsh chemical strippers that they used for VCT. Now, this is brand new tile. They didn't have to do any of that. Like, it was the contractor who put it down had it prepped and ready to go. But then the maintenance crew comes in and they do all of this stuff and basically ruin the tile, this brand new tile. Now, thankfully, they were able to salvage it without having to rip it out. There was a little small strip of area that they kind of like overly aggressively cleaned and sealed and then buffed and then burnt and just kind of when I say burned, it didn't like catch it on fire, but like the buffer worked up enough heat that it actually discolored the tile. And so they replaced that. The contractor replaced that on their dime because
wow. Yeah,
I don't know why. I honestly to this day don't know the because.
Just because that was the right thing to do.
It was the right. Honestly, it was the right thing to do. It was a CM that was a really good CM that works a lot in that particular county, in that district, and so it was the right thing to do. But then we had to like go through and basically teach the maintenance staff. Oh, by the way, you have all of this new equipment. There's new equipment. There's new cleaner, no sealant. And they're like, well, how are we supposed to protect this from dirt? It's like, that literally once you clean it, all you have to do is wet mop it. That's it. That's all you have to do. There is no harsh chemicals. You don't have to go out and buy harsh chemicals. You don't have to do all of that. It's like, but this is an elementary school. And we set up demonstrations about how much abuse it could actually take. And nobody believed us. And so they treated it like they normally did. And it's just like, so it's kind of like back to this, like nobody tends to know what products are out there, what products can be done. And so when they continue to keep doing it the old way, so keep stick building things instead of SIPs or whatever else, it's just because people don't understand like the technology that's out there, the advancements that are out there, and reluctant is, we've been doing this for 25 years. We've been doing this for 50 years. We've been doing it for this way. This is the way.
This is the way. I think about students when we have a conversation like this, and it's like, did you ever think that as an architect, you were going to have to deal with teaching a maintenance staff the right way to take care of a product that they've never thought about before, right? Because this is what it's like to be an architect. Like okay, I outlined using a new product from a practice standpoint, which includes risk management and lawyers. Oh, you're going to use a new product that's a completely different building system? We'll see about that. And then you have to go through the AHJ, and then you have to get it by the contractor, somebody who's never used it before, who is willing to hopefully do something. Obviously, if they bid the project, they're going to be doing it. They're probably going to fight for something else and put you through the ringer if they can, but eventually maybe you'll get them to use it. And then you've got the staff to deal with, and then you've got the custodial staff to deal with. And this is what architects are up against on many projects. It's like, how many times in a school project did you have this idea about a big glass wall that opens up, that connects the indoors to the outdoors, and you couldn't do it? Number one, the budget. Number two, no one was going to open that door and then close it again, right? Because people just don't want to do that. And nobody's going to maintain the tracks. And it's things like this, like we can't put operable windows in a classroom because no one will ever open them. Everybody wants a completely automated system where they can set the thermostat too low, or they can set the thermostat too high, so that 90% of the people are uncomfortable no matter what. And it's wild, right? The things that architects deal with when you're in these user group meetings and people are making decisions based on their own behavior and completely oblivious to how other people might care about something either now or in the future, right? It only what matters is how they will experience it right now. I think it's wild, like the kind of constraints and input that we have to deal with throughout this entire process. And yet here we're still up to the challenge. We're still taking these projects on. We're still trying to make a living doing this. And it just kind of shows, I mean, again, I'm talking to students. Like, this is what you're signing up for. And there's a certain level of masochism to it, right? Like, it's like, that this is welcome to architecture.
I always think back to when I was leaving a site after being on the site all day, going through, construction meetings, doing walkthroughs for pay applications and all of these other different things, and had a recent graduate with me. And as we were walking around, as we were leaving, she looked at me, she's like, I didn't realize that architecture had so much management component to it. I'm like, welcome.
Hand holding. It is a lot of, it's a lot of different things. It's not just design.
I consider us educators for a variety of different things. When I talk about going through one of the current projects that I'm working on, where now we have a user group and we're going through this process where we're talking to the owner group, we're talking to the user group, and they're asking for certain things and educating them on why we can't do some of the things that they want to do, but then also like offering up possible solutions or possible differentiations of like, okay, you could do this or you could do that, but you can't really do this. Does that work within your thing? And so there's always this like education process that we have to like go through when we're talking about that. And I don't know how many architects feel like they're educators, but every architect is an educator. I mean, it's just like, well, why did you pick that product? And then you go through the education of why that particular product was used. What is the benefits? What are like, some of the cons of it? What are all of these things? And, you go through and you like almost every decision that you make, somebody always questions that decision. And so you have to educate them on why that decision was made. And so like every little
just like
thing,
when you were in school, when you're defending your project, right? You have to be able to explain why you decided to do the way that you did.
Exactly. I always talk about the why. The why is like, to me, it is the meaning of architecture. It's like every time we talk about, like all these little things, it's like the feeling, the emotion, the materiality, the this, the that. There was always a why behind it.
If there isn't, it's extremely hard to get that decision to actually happen.
Exactly. And so, and so like I talk about, I mean, I don't know how many times I think it has to be that like most people think I'm a broken record because I'm always talking about why. I'm always asking why. Like I literally had like 3 of the different places that I've worked, I've had a Xeroxed big old question mark just like taped in my cubicle or a little workspace or whatever. And people are like, what is that? Like always question why.
I'm the Riddler.
Exactly.
That's great. I think that it does carry on from school. It actually reminds me of when I worked at Apple for a little bit, and this idea of education. And I've talked about this before. Like Apple saw it was very different and this was 2006. It was before the crash. So I'm just trying to place it in the timeline. So it's not like maybe current Apple, but I'm sure that they still operate around these principles. But the idea was that when a customer buys a thing, a computer, an iPod, an iPhone, whatever it is, that's the beginning of a relationship. It's a relationship, not a transaction, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas you go to Best Buy, as an example, back then it was very starkly different, right? Like if you wanted to buy a Mac at Best Buy, it was on the back shelf in the corner with the lights off, right? It was like they weren't interested in selling those because they didn't understand it. The salesperson probably didn't understand it, didn't want to even try to sell it. So it became this thing where it was like, we want to control the experience for the customer, because if you go to Best Buy and you buy anything, that's the end of the relationship. Right. You bought it, you're gone, you're out the door. Please, we hope you don't come back until you need to buy the next computer. Apple's outlook was like, no, we want you to love the computer, right? We want you to get everything you want out of it and more. And so how would they do that? Well, they offered courses. They had the Genius Bar, right? And they had all these different things. And so to your education standpoint, right, the idea that you had about we educate people. This happened on a high school project. We did a green roof. It was a very small green roof because this was like this just kind of nice little gem on the campus, right? And we had to teach, the firm had to teach the custodial staff, the maintenance staff, how to operate a green roof, right? Because they'd never done it before. Makes sense, right? But
Right.
it didn't make sense immediately because the green roof died like immediately. Right.
Yeah.
And so it was like, we're going to come back in. We're going to build the training materials. We're going to actually go back up there and recultivate it. And we're going to work on it together. And we're going to make it successful because we want you to be successful with this because it is such a showpiece for this campus. And that's just one example. It just reminds me of that thing. It's like, well, if you really want people to get what you intended out of it, if you want your design intent realized, Apple or an architecture firm, like you've got to help people get there, right? Because if you just assume that they're going to figure it out, they're not.
So green roofs, it could be a completely different topic, a conversation, but everybody wants as a solution for sustainability or whatever, green roofs have become more and more prevalent in a lot of the different projects that I work on. And, most of the time they don't really understand them. They worry about maintenance. They worry about, the longevity and stuff.
Well, they're interested in the idea of it. They love the image of it and the perception of it. Yeah. But then that's where it ends, right? Because it's not my job to take care of that. Somebody else has got to do that. So
kind of back to that conversation that we were talking about on first cost and kind of like an investment over time has a different kind of take on. So there was this one company that we worked with that specializes in green roofs. And, not only do they help you design them, they help you work through kind of like waterproofing details and things like that. Mm-hmm. But they are the actual green roof company. And they actually sell as part of their service a maintenance plan where for 10 years, they'll be the ones that do it. And, because it takes a long time. It really does. It's that first year plan the contractor has to worry about the maintenance.
It's insurance.
It is.
Yeah.
And it gets to the point of it they work with the staff, like the maintenance staff and stuff like that, but they're the ones responsible for keeping it alive and keeping it going and all of that other stuff. But they're working with the staff, training the staff over a period of time so that when they take over, if they decide, they could either easily renew it or take over themselves, but they're trained to understand exactly what it is. And larger universities and larger institutions are more willing to do that. We've got in Montgomery County, Maryland, where all of the K through 12 projects, I don't know if they still do it, but there was a time when they wanted at least a portion of the roof to be a green roof, and invested that because of the sustainability, and it was just there was a whole psyche behind all of it, but why they did it. But I mean they invested in this maintenance program and stuff. And it was just it made sense for them. If they're going to, they do see the value of the reduced, the stormwater management, the reduced solar heat gain on the roofs, and all these other things, and reduction of overall energy consumption because your stuff's not working as hard, all of these different things. And they see that all of that is actually contributing to, yes, we're going to be paying a higher first cost for that green roof, but because of all of these other things that are the benefit, it makes sense. Let's do it. But it's having, it goes back to the education thing. It's having to go back and us do our due diligence and talking about all of that stuff and teaching everybody what we learned, and the subject matter experts coming in and showing what they know and just educating them on, is this the right choice or not? And so to everyone out there, yes, we're educators. Boom.